Are we ready in the sound booth for the webcast to start streaming? There we go. Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to the public scoping meeting on the proposed order for Clean Water Act Section 401 water quality certification for waste and waste discharge requirements for implementation of large habitat restoration projects statewide. We have a small crowd here today, but we are webcasting this, so we'll be doing this in our normal formal fashion. My name is Paul Han. I'm the chief of the Watersheds and Wetlands section here at the State Water Board. With me today is Jessica Nadolski. Jessica is the senior scientist overseeing our wetlands permitting and enforcement unit. We also have Paul Garrison, who's at the back of the room, and Brendan Reed, who's over at the side of the room. They're our staff scientists on the project. We also, presenting today, will be Erica Lovejoy with Sustainable Conservation, and Meredith Parkins and Chris Fitzer with Environmental Science Associates. Just to give you a quick agenda, we'll be going over, the purpose of the meeting, talking a little bit about that. We're going to give you background and project description for the proposed order. We'll be talking about the CEQA process and how you can be involved in that CEQA process. We'll cover a tentative schedule, and then we'll talk about the various ways that you can comment and provide you with an opportunity to give oral comments this afternoon. So again, the purpose of this meeting is to receive public and agency comments on the scope and content of the environmental impact report. This meeting is being held in accordance with the public notice dated October 11th, 2019. That notice opened a public scoping comment period that will close on November 22nd, 2019. You'll have a number of different opportunities to comment. Beginning with oral comments, following this presentation, we will provide an opportunity for oral comments. If you would like to speak on this issue, please fill out a speaker card. If you didn't see them, they're at the back of the room. Oh, and this also reminds me, if you didn't sign in, please sign in at the back of the room. When you fill out the speaker card, when it's if you can give it to Paul or Brendan when you're ready to speak. They'll take it from you. Please make sure to state your name and affiliation at the time that you speak. We may need to impose time limits on oral comments if necessary to allow all participants to be heard. I think that's unlikely given the number of people we have in the room, but we'll see. After the meeting, we will provide additional information for how to submit written comments, either through a comment form or through an email or a letter. I do want to remind you that this is just the CEQA scoping meeting. As such, the State Water Board is taking no actions on the proposal today. It is possible that a board member may come into the room today. If that happens, we'll likely stop the meeting just long enough to introduce them. I also want to remind you that this public meeting is being webcast and videotaped. That means you should speak clearly into the microphone so that your voice is recorded and is loud and clear. Before you provide any comments, again, please provide your name and your affiliation. The last thing I wanted to mention is our emergency evacuation procedures. Please look around you and identify the appropriate emergency doors. In the event of a fire alarm, we're required to gather up our valuables and evacuate this room immediately. That's even in the event of it being a drill. We evacuate to Cesar Chavez Park, which is right across the street. Once there, please wait for further instructions. We do use the sign-up sheets to make sure that everybody's out of the building, and it's helpful if you're there for us to do a head count. Please be careful to obey all traffic signals as you cross the street, and hopefully we won't have to use those procedures. With that, I'm going to hand over to Erica Lovejoy, who will give the rest of the presentation.
How about a microphone? I'm Erica Lovejoy with Sustainable Conservation, and we are providing technical assistance on the effort along with Environmental Science Associates Consulting. So I'm just going to provide you all with a little bit of background, some regulatory background, and talk about the project purpose. Starting with the background, the State Water Board has previously authorized a general water quality certification for small habitat restoration projects. And in order for a project to qualify for use of that certification, the project must not exceed 5 acres or a cumulative total of 500 linear feet of stream bank or coastline impacts, and it must also qualify for the CEQA Class 33 categorical exemption. That's the CEQA 15333 exemption. The proposed order being discussed today for mid to large size habitat restoration projects is intended to be a companion, not a replacement to the general water quality certification for small habitat restoration. They will work hand in hand. Currently, restoration projects that fall outside of the limits of the general water quality certification for small habitat restoration must obtain individual water quality certifications and/or waste discharge requirements from the state board or the regional boards. The process of obtaining these individual authorizations can be time-consuming, and it can increase the cost of regulatory compliance as compared to obtaining authorization under a general order that provides programmatic coverage. Restoration project proponents seeking authorization for projects beyond the scale of the general water quality certification for small habitat restoration often do not have the funding to seek individual permits, which indicates the need for a general order that will expedite the regulatory approval process for mid to large size habitat restoration projects. So projects falling out of the scope of that small habitat certification. With that, the State Water Board proposes to develop a general order establishing an authorization process to improve regulatory efficiency for specific types of environmentally beneficial restoration activities statewide. This proposed general order considers a variety of aquatic and riparian restoration project types that take place throughout the state of California. The following list of project activities are being proposed for the general order. First, we have stream crossing and fish passage improvements for the purpose of upstream and downstream movement by fish and other species, and to improve the functions of streams. Next, we have small dam, tide gate, flood gate, and legacy structure removal for the purpose to improve fish and wildlife migration, tidal and freshwater circulation and flow, and water quality. Next, we have bioengineered bank stabilization to reduce fine sediment input, enhance aquatic and riparian habitat, and to improve water quality. The fourth category is off-channel and side-channel habitat restoration and enhancement for the purposes of improving aquatic and riparian habitat for fish and wildlife, and/or to restore hydrologic, hydraulic, and biogeochemical functions and processes of streams. There's also water conservation projects to reduce low-flow stream diversions, including activities such as off-stream storage tanks and ponds and necessary off-channel infrastructure to achieve the goals of that category. Next, we have floodplain restoration to improve ecosystem function through hydrological connection between streams and floodplains, including levee breaching and removal, berm and dike setback breaching and removal, and hydraulic reconnection and revegetation. Continuing on, there's also proposed piling and other in-water structure removal to improve water quality and aquatic habitat for fish and wildlife. 8 is non-native invasive species removal and native plant revegetation to improve watershed functions, such as aquatic and riparian habitat for fish and wildlife. And there's also tidal, subtidal, and freshwater wetland establishment, restoration, and enhancement to create or improve wetland ecological functions. And last, proposed is stream and riparian habitat establishment, restoration, and enhancement to create or restore functions of streams and riparian areas. As part of the proposed general order, restoration projects will need to incorporate specific protection measures as they are applicable to a project, such as design guidelines, avoidance and minimization techniques, or other criteria, into their project descriptions in order to qualify within the scope of the proposed general order. That's a summary of the project description. Now let's hear from Meredith Parkin from Environmental Science Associates to talk about CEQA and the general order process.
Perfect. Thank you, Erica. My name is Meredith Parkin. I'm with Environmental Science Associates. And I'm just going to talk briefly about the CEQA and general order process. So the State Water Board will consider all comments in preparing the draft EIR, and to note that the draft general order will be an appendix to the EIR. A public hearing will be held during the draft EIR public comment period, where you guys can provide or others can provide comments. Written responses to comments on the draft EIR will be prepared, and then a final EIR will be prepared. Also, the State Water Board will consider certifying the EIR and approving the general order. The regional boards will administer the general order, and the EIR may be used by other responsible public agencies and/or participating agencies to support applicable restoration projects. So just to mention that the State Water Board is the CEQA lead agency, and as Paul mentioned earlier, the public comment period on the scope and the content of this EIR is from October 11th to noon on November 22nd, 2019. That you can comment a variety of different ways, as Paul was stating, but email is preferred. So a general schedule on the CEQA process, as I mentioned, the NOP was released on October 11th. We anticipate the draft EIR to be published in fall or the winter of 2020, and then the final EIR certified in spring or early summer 2021.
So, hello. Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Jessica Nadolski. I supervise the Wetlands Permitting and Enforcement Unit here at State Board, and I will be the person actually receiving the CEQA scoping comments. As the screen shows, there's multiple ways to submit comments, but as previously stated, email is preferred by using the address shown. For those of you on WebEx that might just be listening via audio, I'm going to spell out the address for you here in just a few seconds, so get your keyboard, pen, pencil ready. Please include in the subject line when you send an email, comment letter, proposed statewide restoration general order, so I make sure that it's sorted appropriately. The address is essentially my name, jessica.nadolski@waterboards.ca.gov. And again, for those of you who are listening, it's spelled out JESSIC.NADOLSKI@WATERBOARDS.ca.gov. You can also, if email is something that's challenging for you, you can send traditional mail that can be submitted to State Water Resources Control Board at P.O. Box 100, Sacramento, California, 95812-2000. Please do send that attention to me, again, Jessica Nadolski. And your third option for submitting comments is to hand deliver them to right here at the Cali PA building. Please tell security that the delivery is again for me, Jessica Nadolski, and note that on the letter, or note that you are passing to ensure that it actually does get to me. So, of course, we will be considering all comments received during development of this general order and CEQA document, and each comment you submit will be made part of the public record. We will not, however, be responding to comments provided during this initial scoping phase. And one last reminder that I will be accepting comments through noon on November 22nd. This actually concludes the presentation portion of the meeting. If you're in the room and you'd like to speak today, there are speaker cards. If you wave them up, Brendan or Paul will bring you a microphone. If you state your name and your organization first, that would be appreciated. And we're ready to accept comments at this time. No takers? Okay, well, thank you very much. That concludes the CEQA scoping meeting for the Large Habitat Restoration General Order. We thank you very much for coming. Oh, wait a minute. We have one. Sure. Oh, wait.
Can we, this is being webcast, can we get a mic Paul, can we get a mic to her? Great, thanks.
When you discuss large restoration projects, is there a size limit?
Above 5 acres. We don't have a top-out
There's
limit
no
at
cap?
this time.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Will you be considering putting a cap?
It's in development right now, so it's under consideration, but yeah, I mean, there's not, we don't have a top limit at this moment, so.
If that's something you're concerned about, we would encourage you to send in a comment to that effect.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mary Olswang. I'm from California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And Erica, you mentioned that, or no, maybe it was you, that the environmental impact report can be used by other agencies. And I was wondering what that means.
I'm going to go ahead and answer. We are trying to write this CEQA document so that it covers the activities that are being proposed. We recognize that our general order may focus on activities that may be slightly narrower than what is ultimately reviewed in the CEQA document. We're doing that in hopes that if other agencies, and specifically there are some other agencies that we've been partnering with, are interested in being able to do a similar type of general order, that they may be able to make maximum use of our CEQA document. Did Erica or Meredith, did you want to?
One more question. Could you state your name as well too, please? I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is Karen Carpio. And I have a question. So you have all these different things. Do you, like stream crossings, small dam, bioengineering, bank stabilization, is there a method that is going to be required for these restoration projects to follow? Method of doing these restoration projects?
As Jessica stated, the content and approach is still being determined, but the idea that's being discussed is by following specific guidance manuals, existing protocols, for example, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Habitat Restoration Manual, and other standard protocols and procedures that are adapted by other agencies, as well as the State Water Resources Control Board and regional boards.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, what's your affiliation?
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you.
And again, I just want to reiterate, if you do have suggestions, since this is really in the development initial scoping stage, I mean, please provide a comment, via email or traditional letter, or come on over. I'll be happy to meet you and pick something up. Appreciate any comments coming our way.
Hi, this is Lily with the Water Forum. We're an implementer of restoration projects. Are you guys going to be looking at turbidity and TNDL limits for stuff like that for restoration projects? I assume so, but I want to make sure I understand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to say something in the room? Okay, then I think, just getting ready, okay, I think we are at the conclusion of the CEQA scoping meeting then. Thank you very much for all of you for coming, and thank you very much for anybody listening on webinar. We look forward to receiving your comments.
And the folks in the booth can shut the webcast off if they're able to.